Okay, we've let step number 1 dry a little bit. Remember, it doesn't take very long to dry. I let this dry for about 10 minutes. And now I'm ready for step 2, so I'm going to put in the second layer of trees. And I'm going to just draw right over top of these other trees that I've already done. So this is the line where the second row of trees is going to go. And I'm just going to draw right over top here of the next group of trees. And again, I'm drawing lightly because I'll be eventually painting this. And here's the other side of the trunk. Maybe this branch goes way out and like that. Another branch like this. We'll have some other smaller branches coming off of there. Some branches going up. And again, you can see I'm just going to draw right over top of those other trees. Overlapping is going to create depth. Maybe there's a smaller branch here. Okay. And then I'll do another tree over here. I'm putting in the trunk and then just kind of making branches from there. Maybe I have a couple more over here. Another one here. Okay, so those are going to be my mid-tone, my mid-tone trees because they're in the middle. So a mid-tone. So I go ahead and you can see that I'm using the same palette from before. If you're having to get your paint out again, like you had to let that dry and now it's a second day, remember the quarter rule. The quarter rule, if it's bigger than a quarter, then you're probably putting out too much paint. So make sure, except for the white. A lot of times with the white, because again, we're mixing into the white, so you might need more white because that's sort of our mixing color, right? Again, I'm going to start with that puddle of white, and to make my mid-tone, this time, remember before I did just a tiny drop of black, this time I'm going to use a little bit more. So you can see that I've added quite a bit more onto the palette knife. And I'm going to go ahead and make a mixture this time, so I don't have to keep remixing. It's better to already have a puddle of the color that you're using, and that way you're not having to remix it and match it every time. So you can see I'm putting it right next to the color that I used for the first layer, or you can look at it next to the picture and make sure that you're getting a darker tone. And so this is already a nice kind of mid-tone gray. I'm going to add a bit of the blue because again, I would like that bluish tint into the gray. Gives it just a bit more depth to add that bluish tint into it. So I'm getting that nice sort of almost cloud grayish blue here. All right, and you can see I've mixed up quite a bit, so that should be enough for the entire area where I need it. And so for this second layer, I'm just going to start to paint that in right over top of that first layer. You know, there's going to be some of that coming through. And then in here, so you'll see that the line is over here. Maybe I add a bit more detail kind of to the landscape itself. There's some rocks and things like that, leaves and debris on floor of the forest. And you can see that I'm just painting it. Because it's a darker color, the dark will go over the lighter. Very easy. You just paint that right in. And again, notice how with the brush strokes, I'm following the sort of bends and curves of the branches themselves as I paint this in. Now, also, you'll notice with my background one, I added a little bit of white over there. It was a little bit too dark of a gray once it dried, so I just went back with just a white and painted right over top of it, and then I let that dry to give it, to make it just a bit lighter, and also you can kind of see it almost looks like sort of sun coming through the tree limbs there. And again, I'm kind of brushing this out. I don't really want any big blobs of paint on the paper because since we're painting on paper, you kind of want to keep your brush strokes pretty thin. Also, you'll notice that I'm really not watering down the paint. I'm just brushing it right onto the paper. And so I'm going to go right to that other line that we drew. And I'll continue to do the branches. You'll see that I've got a thinner brush there to get into the detail areas, but I'm going to go ahead and paint right over top of the other trees, and this will be the second part. Also, with this second area, we may see little, some tufts of grass here and there. Maybe there's some tufts of grass in the forest. And so you'll have to use a really thin brush just here and there. Tufts here. There's one over here. Or maybe some small plants or something that are sticking out. There's some type of plant here. Maybe a small tree. It's just starting to grow. Okay, so that'll be the second part, that mid-tone area for our painting tree is in value.